everyone, Luke here, welcome back to the channel. So not to toot my own horn, but I think my welds are starting to come along really nicely. They're starting to look really pretty and kind of professional. So I decided to do a video on the first tips that I picked up to make sure my welds are looking clean, neat, and the most important thing, better than Rob's. I know there's a few tips and tricks on the channel already about welding, but as the superior welder, as I would say, I feel like I can bring something new to the table. So let's go over to the bench and let's see what I'm talking about. Here is my example set up, and the first thing that I will say is to make sure that your material is clean, because if your metal has a layer of paint over it, it's going to act like an insulator and it's going to be very difficult, or you probably will not even be able to strike an arc. So make sure your material has been completely cleaned and you're going to strike a nice arc. Depending on what I'm welding up, I always try to make sure that my material is completely square. So I've got one of these, just push it on there, make sure that side's square, make sure that side's square, and now we're ready to weld. One of the first things I did when I first started welding was to just go at this until I thought I laid enough metal across it. And even though that would weld together, the result would be really ugly. So I just learned to slow down a little bit and make sure I'm taking my time with the welding rod. So usually how I start this is by tacking one side together and the other side. So let's do that. Just like that. Now both sides of this have been tack welded together, this thing isn't going to move. So what we're going to do is keep tacking all the way along, making sure that the metal runs into the last tack weld that we just put. And I'll show you what I mean. Just like so. And then once that's cooled down a little bit, just knock all of this slag off. Wowzers. And would you look at that result? So here is a close-up of that weld, and as you can see, it has welded perfectly and it looks good. The direction of the weld does relatively matter. I always like to come head on, so when I make a pool of metal, gravity will do most of the work. So let's spot this side up. Once you become comfortable with that and you get a little bit more control over the electrode, what you can do is a stacked penny look. And this is usually one continuous weld all the way along. And how I usually like to do this is to start at the end point, strike an arc, and then go back and forth, all the way along to the end. It's nice to do it quite slowly, but you also want to make sure you don't burn through your material. And once you've done that sort of weld, it looks absolutely magnificent. So here's a cool tip for you guys. Before you start welding, give your rod a little tap and it knocks off all the crud at the end and it makes it easier to strike an arc. So let's do it. So I'm going to let that cool down and see what it looks like. Let's knock this off and see what it looks like. Oh my god. That is perfect. Don't get me wrong, when I first ever picked up a welder, I didn't even know how to lay a pool of metal down properly. But after a while of getting used to it and giving it a go, I eventually got the feel for it, started using the first tip that I showed you, and after a while I was able to do my continuous welds like this, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I'm not trying to say that if you follow these tips you're going to become a professional welder. What I'm trying to say is, if you do this, you're most likely going to join two bits of metal together that are going to be very strong. And I like to call that amateur professional. And with that being said, that does bring me to the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them all. Anyway guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later.